It was the 1940s, and in a sleepy town on the border of Texas and Arkansas, residents were beginning to experience an unspeakable horror. A killer unlike any other. Under the cover of darkness, he stalked the moonlit streets, preying on young couples, terrorizing a quiet community. The Phantom Killer, as he would come to be known, was a shadow in the night, leaving behind a trail of fear, confusion, and unanswered questions that would haunt the town of Texarkana for decades. What drove this killer to terrorize a town, and why he was never caught? The answers may never be clear, but the fear he left in his wake remains. It was the spring of 1946, and Texarkana, a small town nested between Texas and Arkansas, was like any other rural American town, quiet, peaceful, and sheltered from the horrors of the war. But that changed on the night of February 22nd, when 25-year-old Jimmy Hollis and his girlfriend, 19-year-old Mary Jean LaRue, were parked on a secluded road near the outskirts of the town. The moon hung in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the empty road. Suddenly, a man wearing a bag over his head and armed with a gun approached their car. He ordered them out, telling them to lie face down on the ground. In a moment of terror, Jimmy tried to move, and the man struck him in the head with the butt of his gun, knocking him unconscious. Afterward, the man brutally attacked Mary Jean, forcing her to perform unspeakable acts before fleeing into the night, leaving her alone, terrified and covered in blood. Miraculously, both victims survived, but they were left physically and mentally scarred by the brutal encounter. They gave police a description of their attacker, but no one could have anticipated just how much more horror the Phantom Killer would unleash. As the weeks passed, the town of Texarkana went from being a place of normalcy to one of fear and uncertainty. Only a month after the first attack, on March 24, 1946, the Phantom struck again, this time with deadly consequences. Betty Jo Booker, 15, and her boyfriend, 16-year-old Paul Martin, were also parked along a quiet road, enjoying a peaceful evening. But in the dead of night, the Phantom Killer emerged once more. This time, there was no escape. Betty Jo and Paul were brutally murdered, their bodies left discarded on the roadside, with evidence suggesting they had been shot and attacked in cold blood. The murders shocked the community. Fear gripped Texarkana as residents began to wonder who this phantom was, lurking in the shadows, and how many more lives would be taken before the killer was caught. As the investigation unfolded, the police were stumped. Despite eyewitness accounts, evidence, and even several suspects, the Phantom Killer seemed to vanish into the thin air after each murder. Every lead seemed to dry up, and the police were left with few answers, even as the terror continued to spread. Despite mounting fears, the killer never gave any clue as to his motives or his identity. Was it personal vendetta? A random act of violence? The authorities were no closer to solving the mystery, and the terror in the community grew even stronger. Over the next several months, the police received countless tips, but they were all dead ends. No one could definitely tie anyone to the murders. The killer seemed to vanish as quickly as he had appeared, leaving behind only questions and fear. By the summer of 1946, the killings stopped, but the damage had already been done. Despite numerous investigations and even a grand jury being convened, the Phantom Killer was never caught, and the case remains unsolved to this day. Many theories exist about the killer's identity. Some believe he was caught and convicted of other crimes, while others speculate he may have moved on to another area, continuing his killing spree. But the truth is that no one knows for sure who the Phantom Killer really was. The Texarkana Moonlight Murders remain one of the most chilling unsolved serial killing cases in American history. The town of Texarkana, once peaceful and quiet, would never be the same. Even now, decades later, the story of Phantom Killer sends a chill down the spine of anyone who hears it. The terror he instilled in the community lives on in the shadows, an unsettling reminder that some monsters may never be caught, and that fear can linger long after the last crime has been committed. The Texarkana Moonlight Murders are a haunting reminder of how fear can overtake an entire town. The Phantom Killer preyed on the most vulnerable, leaving behind a string of horrific crimes that the police could never solve. While theories about the killer's identity abound, the fear remains, echoing through time. The legacy of the Phantom Killer is not just in the murders he committed, but in the terror he instilled in an entire community. What became of him, we may never know. But one thing is certain, the shadows in Texarkana are not easily forgotten.